It all started at a Goodwill one day and I found this curtain, which, how random, but I am obsessed with it. There's one thing that I am always looking for when it comes to fabrics and just my sewing project adventures: interesting textiles. And this is so interesting. It gives me the shell skirt, but minus the probable discomfort of wearing that and also the noise. My idea for this absolutely was the shell skirt. I wanted to make a little mini skirt with it. And when I found this pattern online, I was like, okay, wait, a skirt, that's actually so much more my vibe. I love having a pair of shorts under my things. I feel like it just gives me so much more security. And I really like that this pattern has a little bit of versatility with the design. You could have the skirt be a little shorter and have the shorts popping out. They have the low rise, mid rise, and high rise options. I chose to do the mid rise. For the shorts, it would be terribly inconvenient if I used this disco fabric because it would just be all crumbled up underneath. So I just used an old bed sheet to use for the shorts. And then when it came to cutting out the skirt, I had to unite all of the brain cells because we had to get all of the stripes to line up at the side seams, and there were also darts that we had to deal with. And I also wanted to make sure the hem was the same line so that around the entire skirt, all of the rows were just like perfectly in alignment. And anytime you're working with a pattern or something like this where things need to line up at the seams, you need to really pay attention when it comes to cutting your fabric. That is going to be the most important part. Because I am extra, I had this trim lying around and I love the colors on it. I love the vibe of it. It's just really fun. And I've had it for over a year now and I haven't used it for anything. And then I got this idea that if I cut out the little tiny flower circle portion of the trim, how fun would that be to sew onto the skirt and get a little bit of color going? So that's exactly what I did, and I hand sewed all of these things on, and I did it on every other disc. Hand sewing these honestly did not take too long. I really just did a back stitch across the top of the trim and the top of the little like circle disc, and that was it. Once I sewed all those things on, then I think that's when I fully assembled the skirt. Honestly, making this pattern was so simple. It was assemble the shorts, assemble the skirt, and then put the zipper in. I don't think it gets more simple than that. Something that I also had to pay attention to when I was doing this was to make sure that I wasn't sewing the circles into the seams, and that was kind of hard. That did mean that I had to remove some of the discs and then re-add them after the fact, which was not a hassle at all. That was very simple to do. She is literally the most incredible thing. I can't even begin to describe my obsession about this skirt. The way that it moves when I walk around is so fun. But you know, once I finished this skirt, I was like, okay, we have a ton of fabric left. What if I make a matching top? I did just that. And I found again this pattern, which I love. It has a lot of versatility with how you want to assemble it, which love. That's so fun. And so I just chose to go for like the tie back because I thought that if this was, you know, worn as a set, it needs like a little bit of a break. If the top were to go all the way around, I think that that would just be a little bit too intense for like the fabric and just being like super over the top. So a little backless moment, we love a backless moment, and that's just like what I did for this. And again, when cutting this, I just had to be really careful of where everything lined up so that when I did sew it together, everything is very seamless, and you can't even tell that there's seams in the top because all of the rows of the circles line up so perfectly. To line the top, I also use the same bedsheet liner that I did for the shorts, and I also hand sewed all of the little orange trim pieces on, and I can't even explain how obsessed I am with this as a set. Girl, oh my gosh, I wore this actually on my birthday, and my boyfriend and I, we went out like the whole night, and everywhere that I was going, everyone was obsessed with my outfit, and I'm obsessed with it too. And this is really just giving me so much life. It's over the top, it's extra, it's so fun, it's girly, it's feminine, like it's really cute. It hits all of my marks. I just love the result. I think that I did such a great job, and I'm so happy that I did this curtain justice and I was able to turn it into something honestly so special and unique. I have never seen someone wear an outfit like this. I'm sure something like this exists in the world, right? I'm not like that creative, but I also haven't seen something like this. And so I love that I have such a unique piece to add to my wardrobe. And not only that, yes, this is so cute as a set, but also it's a set, it's not a dress. I can wear them as separates. How cute is this top with a pair of jeans? How cute is the skirt with like a little t-shirt over top? It's darling. Also, hi, my name is Katie. I make fashion and sewing content here on YouTube, so if that interests you, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button and join our fashion family. Anyways, back to the video. I had really good luck at this Goodwill because I also found this blue fabric, which I am just so in love with. It's definitely upholstery fabric. It's got that thick, hard canvas material. This as a set for fall, like a little jacket and short combo, that was the vision. I started out with this pair of shorts. I have made these shorts before and I love them. They fit my body proportion so perfect. The waistband is literally so perfect to my waist. And so I knew that in using this pattern, I was going to get a result that fit me amazing. When it came to lining up the side seams of the shorts, I don't think I did an incredibly fantastic job. There's definitely one side that is way better than the other. I did my best. I'm kind of lazy, okay, when it comes to sewing. I think the hardest part of the pattern to line up was getting the pocket facing to line up with the shorts. But two things: I wanted all of the seam finishes on these shorts to be bias bound, and second thing, this fabric was super thick, so I really needed to pay attention to how my seam finishes were working with the bulk of the fabric, because when you're sewing, there is a few things that you need to be concerned about, and one of them is bulk. When you have layer on top of layer on top of layer on top of layer, especially of a thick fabric, it's gonna create like a really thick bulge where seams overlap. And then also, if you're bias wrapping all of your seams, that's 4 more layers of fabric. So something that I was doing was I was grading all of my seams after I sewed them. What that means is when you're trimming the excess seam allowance, you trim one side that is half shorter and then the other half is a little longer. And this just makes the finish a little bit less bulky. And especially because I was using bias tape to wrap all of these seams, I was adding in even more bulk. So grading definitely helped. And one of the reasons I wanted to use bias bound seams was because these shorts don't have a lining. I really have been trying to make things on the inside look amazing. As much as I'm obsessed of like how the outside of them look, I'm almost even more obsessed of how the inside of them look, because I think I did such a good job. Not to toot my own horn or anything. They're not perfect. We went over this. I'm like lazy, but they're pretty good, okay? Of course, the vision was to have a matching jacket to go with this. This is where it was getting a little tricky because jackets use a lot of fabric, especially when you're working with a pattern and you need things to be in alignment. You need even more fabric. I was very nervous about not having enough fabric for this jacket, and just barely I had enough. What I will say though is there is a couple parts throughout this jacket where my pattern, it's not aligned because I didn't have the luxury of being able to make everything line up perfectly. That also being said, there were a couple pattern pieces that are more or less hidden in the garment that I used in a different fabric because I didn't have enough of my original fabric. The places that I was most concerned about the pattern of the fabric matching up were honestly the front and like where the pockets were going to lie. I wanted the pockets on the front to be so seamless and almost like not noticeable, if that makes sense. I did get the pockets pretty perfect to being in alignment with the fabric on the front of the garment. This pattern is a free pattern from Mood. I'm so happy that I have made this jacket before because the sleeves of the pattern are incredibly long. When I was cutting out this pattern, I took 4 inches off the length of the sleeve just to give you guys an idea of how long these sleeves are. Again, be cautious when you're making this. I love this pattern though. I think that this jacket pattern, it's very beginner friendly. If you've never made a jacket before, I think this is a great one. The pattern instructions on the website are very bad though. So the very first time that I did make this, I just typed it into Google. Someone else kind of made a tutorial about exactly how to make this jacket. And thank goodness they did because it really helped me get through this project. I also did bias bound seams for this entire jacket also. And I just love how the inside looks. Like it is just so clean and polished. For my buttons, I have these kind of like clear iridescent buttons that I thought matched the vibe of the jacket. I styled it with these red boots that I just got off of Amazon. They're like an Hermes boot dupe. More importantly, I have the perfect bag to match with it. I just wanted to shout out this bag. This video is not sponsored, being very clear, not sponsored, but Teddy Blake did send me this bag as a gift, and so I just want to shout them out. It literally is so perfect. I use this bag for styling throughout the whole video, and you will see that this is just such a classic, beautiful, perfect bag to add to your collection if you are looking to. I'm really excited that they sent me that. That was so nice of them, so thank you guys. Again, not sponsored, just saying. I think also this set, it just transitions so well throughout the seasons. It can be styled for fall. Really for me, this is like a perfect set just because it transitions so perfectly throughout the entire year. Something that I am obsessing over on Pinterest is all of these little cape or poncho shirts. I think that they're so lovely. It totally flashes me back to old Hollywood, and it just looks so glamorous and chic and timeless and classic, and I have wanted to make one for myself. So that's what this next project, actually this was another curtain that I got at Goodwill. Oh my gosh, this is like the Goodwill thriftlet. Before I jump into this cape thing, this like sheer layer, I knew that I wanted to have something to wear underneath it, and this bralette top has been something that I have been wanting to make just because I feel like little tops like this are really great to have just because they can kind of go under a lot of things. And I have this gorgeous satiny fabric. It's actually fabric that I used in my last Sewing My Pinterest board video, so if you guys haven't seen that one, I have 2 others which were absolute slays. Oh my gosh, sis, we are doing such a good job this year sewing, and it's so much fun. So definitely check those videos out after this one because I have a lot for you to binge watch. This pattern was really easy to make. For the lining, I used this cotton fabric, and really making little tops like this is so simple. You just kind of line up the seams, you sew the lining to the shell, and then you add a zipper, and that's pretty much all I did. This little top fits me so perfect. It's very comfortable, but that little top came together honestly probably in less than an hour. Very, very simple to make. And then at this point we were ready to make the little sheer layer to go over top. And I had this curtain that I got at the Goodwill. I really was like, I kind of just need to make like 2 long rectangles and then have there be a neck hole, and that's pretty much it. So I just cut out 2 really big size rectangles that were like about the size of my really big arms. And then for the side seams, I just folded in like 1/2 inch and then folded over that so that the raw edge was enclosed. And then I just did a top stitch over that. So I did that along both the side seams of the rectangles. And then the plan was to do it across the top seam as well. but I needed these pieces to be connected. So what I did was I ironed everything into place, and again, it was just a 1/2 inch fold iron and then another 1/2 inch fold so that the raw edge was enclosed. Where the crease was on either side of my rectangle fabrics, that's where I was going to sew in between to have them connect at the sides. So I just marked where I wanted the neck to be, and then I just sewed down one side and then I sewed down the other, and then at this point it was time to top stitch and enclose my seam for my seam finish. That was basically it. It was like the project was over after that. I used the selvage edge of the fabric and I just used that for the hem because I'm lazy. One other little piece that I did sew is I wanted there to be armholes. So along the side seam, I just did like a quick little tack. It's just about an inch big. So with this project being done, I was like, okay, I have a lot of this extra beautiful satiny, gorgeous fabric from Joann's that I want to use. Maybe make a matching skirt. So I cut out, again, a giant rectangle. I was just kind of playing around with it. And honestly, I did not record this at all because I was getting confused. And I was like, is this even gonna be in the video? Like, if it doesn't even work, like, what's the point? What's the point of filming? It's not gonna work. But what happened, it ended up working and I'm putting it in the video anyway, so I'm so sorry. But I basically just kind of found a cool shape and then I cut the side so that I could have a side seam and a zipper to get in and out. And then I just folded the waistband in and like added some interfacing so I had some extra structure. The way that I did not film any of this, I'm so sorry because this little set is, well, all of these are cute little sets. I can't even pick a favorite because they're all my favorite for different reasons, but I'm obsessed with how this skirt came out. And it just came from my brain and me just kind of like cutting and sewing and seam ripping and sewing again. I tried maybe 3 different things on this skirt until I landed on whatever it is I turned it into. And even though it's not perfect, it's definitely like, you know, got its quirks for sure. But I love how it came out. So this was like definitely an experiment for myself of like not taking my projects too seriously and just having fun, because I feel like when you're just kind of winging stuff, sometimes like really magical things happen. Sometimes it's a disaster. Don't get me wrong. I have made many disasters in my life, but also sometimes I think that like when you just kind of turn your brain off and let the magic happen, maybe it's technically not correct, but it looks good and the inside looks fine. So I think the best part about this specific video is that they all look so cute mixed and matched with each other, and I feel like I just created a whole new wardrobe for myself just from like this one video. I made 6 different pieces. They all are interchangeable. Everything looks so good together. I think that this is my best sewing my Pinterest board video that I have ever done, and it makes me so excited for the next time that I make this video, because I feel like every single time I have made these videos, my projects have just gotten better and better and better and so much more fun. So thank you guys so much for joining me. This is where we are going to close out this video. Thank you guys so much for joining, and until next time, bye friends.